All right, so this is the Recreation Commission meeting for Monday, May 18th, 2020. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough Recreation Commission will be conducted via remote participation for the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so by following the manners and finding the meeting information at the town website. No in-person attendance or members of the public may be permitted, but every effort to make this will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 7:33. And I actually sent you guys around meeting minutes from last time. So they're in your inbox. Did you guys get a chance to read those, or if you want to take a minute right now and read them?
Take a minute now.
Okay, do that.
Jen, which address did you use? The town of addresses or our personal?
Oh, it should have been your personal. And yeah.
I don't.
Oh, you know what? Yours sent to the town. Sorry, I can re-forward it to you.
It's okay. I'm in the town one too.
Okay. On April 29th.
Well, that just broke up for me.
I said it was on April 29th that I sent it out, if that helps you find it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it.
Cool.
Sorry, everything's just really slow to load.
No problem.
Jen, did you write these?
Yeah.
They're quite thorough. A very, very tiny typo is just the next meeting date just says Monday, 18/2020.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. I was like, what's wrong with that?
Well, it's true. Does it really matter what month it is? Aren't they all the same now?
I can make that change.
Other than that, I make a motion to approve the minutes with the one minor change noted for Wednesday, April 29th, 2020.
I will second that.
All right. All in favor? Yes. And actually, sorry, we do a roll call vote. So Hanson, yes.
Laval, yes.
Dave, you're on mute. You're on mute, so we can't hear you.
I'll unmute him.
Okay.
Oop,
Will that work? I lost his video.
he went away. So
All right. All right, well, we can come back to him. We still technically have quorum even without his vote, so. All right. Do we want to, so then we jump into our director and member reports. So Tim, do you want to give kind of our general update?
we do have somebody in the attendee room. I don't know if we want to hit public comment
Oh,
before.
sorry. Yes. Yeah. Go for it. So if anyone who is participating and wants to make a public comment, I think you should be able to like raise your hand. There should be a button there to say to raise your hand and then we can let you in. Or if you're just here to listen, that's fine as well.
No raised hands.
No? Okay. That's fine. All right. So we can jump. Hey, Dave.
Hi,
Oh,
Dave.
no, we really lost him. All right. We'll give him a minute. So do you want to just start, Tim, then with an update?
Yeah, sure. Let me just bring it up in front of me. So we'll go down the line, I guess, of how it's published. General Department programming update, I'm actually going to give to Alex. If Alex, you want to just update on what we got going on?
Yeah, sure. So our second session of yoga is starting next week. As of right now, there's 15 people registered for that. We just finished our last session where there were 65 people registered.
Wow.
Tomorrow, our first meditation class starts. As of right now, there's 18 people registered for that. And we've been working closely with youth and family in the library. They've been using our registration site. I've been putting up their programs and they've been running them through us. And that seems to be working pretty well.
So cool. So a couple things, but they've all been successful, so it's good. Second piece of it, project updates. So DePetrie Field work is going to start this week finally. So
It's exciting.
I'm meeting with Alan on Wednesday. He's the head contractor on it. I'll be meeting with him down there, just some couple clarifying questions he has, and then his crew is going to move in on Friday and begin the work. With the kids out of school and the weather looking the way it is, our hope is it's going to be pretty quick. So we'll get a better idea of the schedule, just so we can coordinate with DPW because the water source in the road and all that good stuff. But that'll be finally starting a little later than anticipated, but hey, that's fine with me, as long as it's getting going. We received, in regards to the townhouse playground, we received funding from the Choate Family Grant, the fund, to cover the ADA surfacing that we talked about, that rubberized surface. So we got the grant for $1,100. So that shaved that off with the total price. And then, which is great, which brought us under 20 grand. And then we saved another 500. I swapped out a piece of the equipment on the climber just so that it was fully rated for that preschool age that we were working towards. So that was really good. We found out about that today. The other recipients of the grant that we know about are the Trails Committee. So they're going to be doing some work on the trailheads and signage and things of that nature, which is great. They're underneath us technically as a rec department. So, you know, it's really good that they got the funding that they needed as well. CPC has, well, Calander, I guess. Calander is going to be moved to fall town meeting as I expected, honestly, just with everything going on. This town meeting is going to be reserved, it seems, strictly for budgetary purposes. So we had a CPC meeting because of the lights, which I'll say next, but Lisa Braccio was on the call and kind of explained it, but as predicted, we'll be bumped to the fall just with that project, which is fine. We lost pretty much a construction season, I would think, just because of the delays going on right now. So I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll work just fine. So spring 2021, it looks like, is when we would want to start that construction. And then with CPC, we were invited to the meeting because of the lighting projects for the additional funding of the additional engineer work for Neary and Mooney. It was our first stop to figure out where that money is coming from. It was approved. So they are going to use the contingency funds that were built in to the article to pay for the extra engineering services of Mooney and of Neary for the lighting. So those contracts were signed and submitted last Thursday, and Art is going to let me know once he has an engineer assigned, and then we'll get rolling on that project. And yeah, that's just quick updates because I know we have a lot to talk about tonight.
And Dave, well, that's all really great news. I mean, to your point, any progress on any project right now, I think, is good news, and the programs as well. Dave is going to be joining in a minute.
Okay.
He just texted me.
Is he going to come in as a public, do you know?
I asked him if it sounds like he's coming via his town account.
Okay. Cool. Just while we're talking about him behind his back, before he gets on here, he's up for re-election, but he didn't submit to be re-elected. So.
Yeah, I was going to mention that to him tonight to make sure, because it probably went to his town account, which he probably doesn't check very often. So,
okay.
Yeah.
What month is he up in?
End of June.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's done. But I saw that you replied. You were marked on the yes.
Yes.
I thought you were going to keep us in suspense. I don't think we necessarily have to wait for him though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we want to just jump into the meat of it then, that conversation about the status of the department, given all of the pandemic and the governor's announcements.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll just lay it all out. So, it's been 2 weeks since we last met. There has not been on the state side much movement on guidance. Today with the reopening plan, I think that was our first glimpse of a potential. But even with that, it did not address the concerns that we have, the concerns that my other colleagues have, all of our colleagues have in the field. This is my laundry going off right now, if you hear the jingle. All the concerns that we've really been waiting to hear when it comes to ratios, when it comes to sanitizing the sites, when it comes to kind of the A to Z of what the camp day is actually going to be looking like. And so ever since Alex and I met with you guys last, and so I think Vanessa said today, we've been at this for 10 weeks now, thinking about how is this going to work, thinking about what camp is going to look like, thinking about is it something we can run, and unfortunately tonight I am going to recommend that we cancel summer camp, simply because every scenario that I put on the table, that Alex has put on the table, that Denise has put on the table, everything has come back to, is this safe? Everything has come back to, is this safe for the kids? Is this safe for the staff to be putting them into this situation? There has been practices that have been recommended from the American Camp Association, from the YMCA group on, good practices, better practices, best practices, kind of given options. And, if we're going to operate, we're obviously going to want to operate at best practice. At least Alex and I want to, if we're going to put our name on it. And, some of the guidelines that are in place for best practices are guidelines I would never ask a 16-year-old to partake in, a 17-year-old to partake in, of cleaning toilets and, being fully geared and PPE in the case someone tests as positive, and containing them in rooms and everything of that nature. So, speaking with Alex, and even speaking with our camp staff who we've been talking to, or Alex has been talking to on a weekly basis. There's just there's a fear, I think, of the unknown. Not to mention, we have no idea the supplies we need to get. We don't know if we can get those supplies. And again, there's no guidance given right now from the state on what everything is going to look like. And, even if we look at the reopening plan and they're saying that camps would be phase 2, if everybody, ties their boots tight and they listen, that would be 6 weeks away, which is get us to week 2 of our original session of when we may, need to, or when we would be able to operate at earliest. So we would already be getting into when we're going to be there. And so, knowing that, knowing we're only a month away, and again, not knowing what's going to be in place, it's hard to string our staff along, and it's hard, again, I say it a million times, it's just hard to make these decisions when we just don't know. And so all the conversations, again, we've had have come back to the safety of the kids, have come back to the safety of the staff, have honestly come back to Alex and I thinking, are we going to be on there? And we make it a real world situation that then we're going to come home and we're going to bring it home to our families. It's not just the kids, it's everybody who's going to be exposed in that building. Some tipping points too, just so Fay School canceled last week. I talked to Sam over there. Northborough is canceling, they're announcing tomorrow. Westboro is going to cancel. Shrewsbury is rumored that they're going to cancel. And it's all for the same reason, that people just don't want to take the risk of it getting into their camp, and then their camp being known as the one that spread it in their town. So it's terrible. On a personal note, camp is the reason I got into this field when I was younger, being a counselor and maybe want to do it full time. So to cancel it is hard, but we're kind of looking at the greater good here, and one summer, and it's going to be hard on parents. We get that, and I'm very sensitive to that. But Alex and I, we just have the best. We're trying to keep the best interests of the kids and the family of our town and in the front of our minds. So. It's going to be my recommendation tonight, and I admittedly I did talk to Jen about this over the weekend, just so we weren't completely blindsided, that we do call off at least camp for this summer. So Alex, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
I mean, it's really unfortunate. I've worked at the camps for the past few years and I love them more than anything, but there's so much uncertainty. There's so much fear in our staff, myself. I think Tim feels the same way. We've played every scenario possible, even smaller groups, things like that. It's not something that we think is really going to work this summer.
So
I was going to add also, we don't even know if we can use the schools, right? There's some question of whether or not the schools will even allow us in the buildings.
Yeah, Northborough did hear through their town manager that there may be some cancellations this summer, and there'll be a high possibility the rec groups won't be able to utilize the buildings. So we have a call scheduled with Greg and Keith as well, but that won't make a difference at this point, because I don't think that would relax any of the fears or the feelings that we're really dealing with right now. So
The results of your survey.
Yeah, speak up, Don. I can't hear you.
What was the result of your survey?
I bring it up in front of me. So it was pretty split on people who want to wait to see what the guidelines are versus people who just need the child care. It was like 100% that people did not want virtual. Let's see. All right. So we had 258 responses, which was great. Okay, so 47% said that they would allow their kids to attend, and then the rest said no or undecided. Field trips didn't have an impact. That would be another piece of it too, just a smaller piece of we'd have to rework the pricing, but field trips didn't have an impact. 60% said no to virtual. And then, so we put that question of time restrictions on camp, if it would make, hey Dave, if it would make a difference. And about 40% said there would be, it would make a difference to them. The rest saying no, they just want an opportunity. And then we had 112 responses of write-ins, which are mixed of, reopen, or questions, does my kid have to wear a mask? What's the guidance from CDC? What are the challenges you're going to face? Is it safe for a fourth grader? Is it safe for a 5-year-old? Things of that nature. So, it was pretty split. And I think I sympathize greatly with and I agree with the individuals who just want something for their kid to do. I understand that, but at what cost to our department and to our town. So that's with that. Dave, just to fill you in, welcome. Hello.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I missed this one. Not gonna lie.
No.
But thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I caught the end of it. It sounds like we're not doing camp.
Yeah, that's a recommendation from me and Alex for us to discuss tonight.
Okay. I mean, it's sad. I don't mean to. I get all sides of it though. So whatever you guys think is right, I guess is probably the right thing. Is the right thing to do. It's too bad, but.
And we did, we talked to the Board of Health about it. We talked to Mark about it. We talked to Vanessa about it. They all agreed it was the best practice.
They did. Okay. Yeah.
And then the Board of Selectmen were made aware that it was going to be the recommendation tonight, and they were of support with it because they understood as well of the risk involved.
Do you have any clue? Not that it really matters, but what other towns are doing?
Yeah,
or like even just the ones around us,
Yeah, Northborough is canceling. They're announcing it tomorrow. I talked to Allie last week.
Okay.
Westboro and Shrewsbury are rumored to be canceling. We're hearing that through the grapevine of management. And Fay obviously canceled right next.
Oh, they did.
Across the street.
All right. No, I mean, I'm just curious. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you guys know way more than me, and it sounds like it's the safe, right thing to do. Whatever. Yeah.
So, and I agree. I mean, I'm not going to ask you guys to put yourselves in positions where you don't feel safe, and it does sound really difficult to work around the guidelines. But so I'm wondering if, can we use, how do I put this? Can we offer some sort of alternatives? Have you given any thought of that? Not necessarily in a camp environment, but more social distancing type activities to get, things to just for people to do, or even get our own kids out of the house if we could guarantee certain space. I mean, have you guys had any talks like that?
Alex, I'll let you take that.
Look, her smile.
I mean, honestly, ever since Tim and I chatted last week about Northborough canceling, I've thought about it. I've lost sleep over it. I honestly agree with you. I'm sure you guys are going crazy with your kiddos. I keep them all in my neighborhood all the time. Honestly, I keep going back and forth. I think, let's play a scenario that right now you can only have 10 people in a group. So we have one of our senior staffs who's over 21. They're in charge of 9 kids at Fayetteville Park because we can't use the schools. So we're at the park. We order a porta potty. Okay. According to what we've heard so far, every time a child uses the bathroom, we have to clean it. So are we going to clean the porta potty every
Yeah. And I should probably clarify, not involving like you guys having to staff or take care of the kids. More, can we think of, have you thought about, at least can we schedule some community events that, like, I'm just trying to think of like using the fields or something where you have like a big outdoor yoga or something like that, where we can guarantee some social distance just to break up the monotony I think that everybody has been facing now for several weeks. Has there been any talk like that about, again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but ways we could socially distance, plan some events just that parents would have to take their own kids to, let's say, or I don't know, again, just kind of thinking outside the box.
I mean, I think it's hard because right now we have no idea how many people can be in a group setting.
Yeah.
Right now it's 10, maybe it'll be 20. I think the biggest fear is that if we do, an outside yoga or, the staff and I were thinking about like a scavenger hunt.
Right.
The concern is that, let's say parents bring them or parents drop them off for an hour to do that. And it's like, okay, we're telling you that there won't be more than 20 people. Well, what happens if your next door neighbor brings their kid to play on the playground? Now you're up to 25 people. And now we can't legally say that we're doing 20 kids. There's now, 5 more on the playground, and maybe you won't be mad about it, but a mom could come storming in and say, now there's 5 more people and this is not right. And then it kind of falls back on us.
Yeah.
I think that's the challenge of holding something outside, is because there's some parents that are just going to go to the playground. They could care less how many people are there. But then there's the flip side of like, we have to legally say, okay, there's not going to be more than 20 people because that's what we're promising you. But like, I also can't kick people off the playground, especially if they're open. So I think that's going to be very challenging. Tim and I have talked about trying, keeping our movies and our concerts, trying to figure out how to socially distance doing that. I think, those type of events, sure, they would be great, but I think those might have to be like the last minute planning things where, okay, now you can have 50 people. Okay, like let's do it on a field where there's no playground. So maybe there won't be extra people. But I don't think that that's something that like we could plan right now, because we don't know when that number will be big enough that it would be the right thing.
Wow. Yep. Understood.
And I think you get the gist of we're trying to plan. I think because we're looking and we're trying to think of what we can do, but it always circles back to what is the state going to put into play? I mean, even with personally, I think there's going to be a point where it does relax quite a bit once you're seeing phase 3 is youth sports are going to get back into play and games with limited parent interaction, things of that nature. So I think it's going to get to a point where we can feel comfortable doing something on a bigger scale at a park, not so much of a camp nature.
Right.
But again, like Alex just said, it just comes back to right now in the immediate future, it comes down to what's going to be allowed.
It's just too complicated right now. Let's hope that let's be ready to roll by the fall, and I don't know, hopefully be ready to kill it. Everybody, the whole state, it just seems way too complicated. Sucks, but yeah. What did the governor actually say? That camps could open? No, right? I mean, it's more.
Camps are phase 2. The lieutenant governor mentioned.
We don't even know what that phase 2 could be 5 weeks from now too. You don't even really know.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's supposed to be 6 weeks, I think 3 weeks.
It's supposed to be 3, but he said there's no guarantee of when. If phase 1 doesn't work, they're going to hold all that back.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully that won't be the case.
But I think it would be different if they said, okay, phase 2, here are the guidelines, and then we can make a decision. But the issue is it's phase 2 guidelines to come in the next couple weeks.
Mhm.
So, there's one thing of saying we're going to do it, but, we have young staff and, we have CITs to care about, and we are not working in our own building. So there's just so many factors that I think are working against us. So.
And I know you said no, I can understand why, given the lack of interest in anything virtual, I assume that's off the table, because if you say 100% of people don't want virtual.
Yeah, just about. I don't think it's off the table. I mean, obviously there's some want for it of these, adult programs that we're doing.
Right.
We've talked about, doing little things here and there. But, I it could be a philosophical thing for me, but, online camp is not camp.
No.
So, we can still put out crafts, and we can still work with the library. I know they're doing summer reading, and, we planned on helping with that, and, get kind of creative on things to do. But what did it say? 18% said they would consider it. The rest said no. So, and we do have a lot of other stuff that's going to keep us busy. We can up our movie nights and do the drive-in movies, and like Alex said, we're looking at the concerts. I do think there's a way we can do the concerts of certain genre. I don't know if like a kids show would be the best, as all the kids would be running around, but I think there's still other things that we can do on a macro level. Summer nights should land in the time where restrictions should be somewhat laxed. So, we can look at that pretty heavily and how that's going to look this year. And we just got to be crafty with it. But it's just, it's hard when kids are involved. That's kind of that's kind of it with me. So.
Hey, Tim, can you?
Just a couple more things. So the guidance on the wash the bathroom every time someone uses it. I've spent the last 3-4 weeks going over this stuff from an office environment, not necessarily from obviously from a camp perspective, but we haven't run into that sort of requirement. Where's that one coming from? Or is that CDC, or are you seeing that from New Hampshire or Connecticut or New York, or I think New Jersey open camps? Like where does that one come from?
So the American Camp Association and YMCA hired an outside engineering firm to put forward guideline recommendations for camp licensure, and their recommendation of good, better, and best practices. Obviously, that's one I just cherry picked from it, but that was put out in full this morning. I can send you all the link to it so you can review it. It's lengthy, but that's one of the best practices, the level of at which they're discussing when it comes to sanitizing stations and sanitizing camp.
I mean, it doesn't seem very practical for any camp to be in that scenario. But have you thought about, you may not be able to serve all populations, but can you serve the 12 to 14 population, because it'll be easier to organize than the 4 to 6 year old population? You could have a track and field sort of 2-hour session or whatever, you almost like a mini wrap sort of scenario for maybe kids that are a little more self-sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to once the guidelines get relaxed, and then we start looking at alternative programs. I think if we were to do anything, if we were to get to that point where we wanted to offer programs of some sort, most likely it'd probably be in that type of style. An hour or 2 hours here, at this park, at some open aired facility. That's kind of admittedly what we've been talking about all along when we've been talking about our alternative programs. But again, it just comes down to when we think we'd be allowed to do it, and what it would actually look like. Because admittedly too, I'm sure you are, Don. I'm looking at this financially too. It's a huge hit, and we need to make up for it somewhere. So that's why, we got to do something, but I'm not going to rush it just to make money type thing. We want to do it right. We're not going to put things out, and then next thing we know, it's going to be detrimental, both on the reputation of us, but also on other families. But,
I was thinking in the context of, based on, I watched his presentation or their presentation today, and I read through their guidance afterwards. The thought that I, obviously camp number one, but then my daughter participates in club soccer. So, and they're sort of itching to do things, right? And the way I read it was, 3 to 4 weeks from now, you might open up the fields, and they may be able to have a practice, let's say, with the appropriate, social distancing sort of feel to it. And then phase 3 is when they could potentially have a game,
Yep.
with the right crowd requirements and the whole social distancing there. So if you thought about, 4 weeks from now having something that looks like a practice, and what could you fit into that mold, then again, it doesn't fit into an all day. It doesn't fit into a half day. It fits into like, the only thing I can think of is back to the financial element. I think you could have like outdoor baking right now, and you'd have demand for it. Like literally,
Yeah.
whatever it might be, people will throw their kids at it. Just to like, we had the little girl from out down the street come up today, and they played capture the flag with gloves and masks on. Like, it was ridiculous. But there's just anything they can do to get out and do something. So it's if we say there's nothing, then I just wonder if when we say there's nothing, then we say, hey, but we're going to monitor this and stay tuned because we may have something.
Yeah, and that's, I have put, the letter together just to be proactive, because I don't know how fast this is going to spread. And I mentioned that in it, that, and it's true that we're going to continue to monitor it. We'll monitor it from the state level, and we'll monitor it on the local level as well, because, it really comes down as well to our Board of Health. I want to do something. I do. It's summer. It's the time to get out. And like we said, we're going on 10 weeks now, trapped inside.
They're gonna
But,
open the polls. There's like, they're gonna open up the
Yeah,
polls.
that blows my mind personally. So it's going to be like a 90-10 ratio of chlorine to water.
Oh, geez.
Or it should be.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
So, but we want to do something, but we just don't want to rush it. That's all it is. So, it's our goal to get back in action, especially when it comes to the fall with school coming back in, and have a really good offering right off the bat, and whatever that's going to look like. But we're going to do it the right way, type thing.
Yeah, and so also it seems like the governor is releasing guidance on the day that it becomes effective, right? So we're also it doesn't feel like we're gonna have a heads up that, okay, in 2 weeks now you can hold a program
Right.
with 10 kids. It sounds like, because even when he announced today, he's like, as of today, all these businesses can now do something, but they didn't have a heads up. So as soon as they make an announcement, then it will be kind of like a scramble to say, okay, what could we do? What do we want to do?
Has there been any discussions, and this might be more youth and family services, I'm not sure, but what about, again, I'm just thinking about people as they're asked to return to work, and now we don't have school, now more people are going to be expected to go back, and I'm not personally in this boat, but you can imagine a lot of these people working on the businesses that were allowed to open today, identifying families who are in need, like, truly we're going to have a dependency, and have literally no substitute because their businesses are opening back up and they have to go in, offering something to them. And maybe, I don't know if it's on an individual basis where you team them up with a high schooler that's looking to babysit or something this summer. I'm just completely understanding everything. I'm just thinking about those families where it's like, okay, great, now I'm going back and my kid isn't. Now I don't have camp. What are they going to do? And is there something we could offer there, maybe in collaboration with Youth and Family Services, if it hasn't been discussed already?
So we discussed it briefly about, we have a fully staffed camp right now. So we have a lot of kids, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. And we talked about the idea of maybe using them as, recommendation tool of, if you need a babysitter, these are the kids you have. It could be because this whole thing just exacerbates everything, but, does recreation want to be responsible if, something happens with that staff member, and they get sick and they bring it into someone's house? Whose liability is that on, and who does that fall back on? And it's crazy to think that way, but, I think we have to, if we're taking the stance on camp because of that, it's just another angle to look at that. We can definitely recommend to these kids, there's these sites available or something like that, please go, or, you know, maybe we can think of something that isn't so much connected to our name, that can get their names out. I don't think that's bad. I would just be hesitant to have it as a recreational recommendation to them.
Okay.
So, and you can feel different, and that's fine. But
No, I understand everything you're saying. I'm just trying to rack my brain, you know.
yeah,
I'm sure like you've been doing, so
Yeah.
not to say that you haven't.
I did ask him the same question too when I first had
Oh,
the
yeah.
conversation, because there's so many people that are gonna
Yeah.
need to find something. But that's where I think like we can direct them to like the Southborough Facebook pages where they can post and be like, hey, I'm available for the summer. I also did hear the governor's press conference. He mentioned that there's like availability for immediate childcare for people that have to go back to work. That there's something like 10,000 spots available within the state, and it's only at 30% capacity, which I was actually shocked to hear. So there are daycare, like it's most likely younger kids, but daycare facilities and places open that are available if people have to have them, you know, which I don't know. I was surprised it was at that level, like only 30% capacity, but
Yeah.
it does seem like there is something available for people that really are stuck.
Yep.
Can't go back to work if you don't have childcare. Sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, my age kids are different, but little ones, I don't know. It's whatever. It's not our problem. I don't mean it as it's our problem, but it just sucks, you know.
that's the bad news of the night.
You promise? That's it?
What's the good news?
I quit. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's bad news.
Nice try.
That's worse news. This is iced tea, by the way. I'm not pounding scotch.
No rocks glass. Okay.
Tim,
Okay.
is that anything that the commission has to take a position on?
I was just gonna say that I don't know if we want to do that just to have it on the books. It's really, I mean, the other piece of it too. I don't know if you want to talk money. You know, we're gonna put 100%. You know, we talked about it, refund, because these are outrageous circumstances of it. So, you know, we'll be issuing those. It'll take quite some time, but we'll get Denise on it with the two of us, and we'll get that rolling. But you know,
Is everybody paid already that was signed? Like, is that what you do? You pay, obviously. Yep.
Yeah, we had a handful that were on payment plans, but they stayed pretty consistent with it up until everything happened, and we obviously weren't badgering them once everything hit the fan. Yeah, so that'll be that'll ruin the projection for next year pretty hard.
Is this loss in money going to affect us with moving forward with anything in the fall? I mean, will it hurt us in any?
I don't think so, because you know we're giving a lot of money back. You know, we didn't break even, so we were going to lose money anyway at this point.
Oh, okay.
You know, we haven't moved forward on supplies or anything of that nature. We haven't incurred expenses with staff coming in for planning. So all kind of pre-planning expenses that we had on top of it have not been expended.
So camp's not really a money-making thing.
We were on the verge of it. Trajectory.
No, okay, yeah. I didn't mean it. Like, I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, but you know, right now, no, we weren't sitting pretty in the green, and you know, in that regard.
Okay.
So would the motion be to support the Recreation Department's recommendation that we do not hold Recreation does not hold a summer camp program this year, at least, well, yeah, period. This year.
Can we add, so we will be able to add that as advised and agreed with the town manager and the appropriate augmented to be that this isn't a unilateral. This wasn't a unilateral exercise. This was consultation across multiple groups and organizations to get to this conclusion.
Yeah, we're not making the decision. I mean, we're just one of a group that are making the decision. Yeah. Research has gone into it to come up with the best answer. That's what I'm trying to get to. Yeah. It will be interesting to see if anybody goes forward with it. Do you think that people will be doing? I mean, the city I could see doing it, but I wonder if towns will do it, or maybe they won't. I don't know.
I think you know, I've been on so many Zoom calls, Alex and I both, for the last couple of weeks.
No, I bet.
I you know, people and departments are dependent on it. there are departments who, if they don't have camp, have been told they will be furloughed because that is their biggest moneymaker,
Okay.
for the summer. So I think some people are doing it because they know they have to. I think the biggest hit is going to be at overnight camps, residential camps, because I think that's a hard sell, I think, right now. But every town's different. So
No, that's fine.
Like, it's interesting, we have this debate all the time because the kids who signed up for Burgess and Hayward down on the Cape, and between my wife and I, we solve problems all day long. So we're like, oh, we can solve this, right? So you basically you cancel the weekly campers, you make a 2-week camp, you have everyone come in, and then you lock the place down. And basically, there's nobody in and there's nobody out, and
I'm in.
they're probably safer than they'd be anywhere else at that point. And then you figure out how to, that way your sort of turnover requirements are limited to less frequency. Now that assumes you can actually get counselors in and all that stuff, because I think that YMCA camp draws a lot of kids from abroad. But you almost have to look at, and those kids generally you can go with older age groups who are a little bit better controllable. But it's the churn, right? That sort of makes everything difficult. People coming in, going out. They went home and they saw their parents, and maybe they saw their grandparents, and then they come back the next day. Stick them at an island. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Take it for the summer.
That document I was talking about from ACA and YMCA, that's pretty much what they say is there's no family visitation days, there's no open houses, there's nothing. You send your kid and then you pick them up.
Counselors, especially if they're abroad counselors, you tell the counselors you're on a 6-week shift. You don't leave the compound for 6 weeks, and then you get your week off at the end or whatever it is. But it's no different than what they were talking about doing for professional sports when they were thinking about the bubble concept and all that. Like, limit the unnecessary contact.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
All right. So if we go back to Kristen's motion, I'll second that. And then we need a roll call vote.
Yeah.
David Candela, yes. Kind of. Just kidding. Yes.
You're on mute, Kristen.
I was on mute telling David he was on mute.
Oh, was I on mute?
No. Sorry,
Oh.
Dave Nixon. So Laval, yes, in case I was muted.
Yeah, can we try to unmute Dave Nixon?
I'll do it. Yeah, Dave, I'll do it. Hold on. Go ahead.
There we go. Hey,
I
Dave.
thought I was unmuted.
No.
We don't want to hear from you.
Anyway, yes, I'm in favor. Go like this.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you a yes also for the meeting minutes when you are mute?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do you have me? I'll vote yes again.
Just thumbs up. Or thumbs down.
So this is gonna, like I'm certainly not gonna say anything, let you, have the time to announce it properly, but are you gonna announce it like tomorrow? Because it's gonna spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I have the letter that I wrote.
Okay.
It took me like 2 hours to write a 2-paragraph letter today. It's up in front of me and I will probably put it out now. Once we're done. I already talked to Beth Mello with my Southborough because she had a bunch of questions. And I let her know that I'd appreciate it if it came from us first. And then I would send her the letter as well so she could post. So she's waiting for it as well. But yes, I'm sure it's going to spread. And I'm sure people are not going to be happy. So, I will say again that I really do sympathize with that. And I apologize for that. But it's the safety of the kids. That's what we're looking at throughout this whole thing. And that's highest priority. So.
Well, sorry. And also, I don't mean to go back on what I missed and stuff, but I will for a second, because you can't even put it together yet. Could you? Like, there's no way to even.
Nope, there's no guidelines yet.
Yeah, there's like and we're talking about it. We're not in March anymore. We're coming up on it. It just doesn't even seem possible. Whatever. Sorry, we'll leave it alone.
No, it's a good point. It's an important point. And Alex and I were talking earlier this afternoon, and at this point in our schedule that we had, camp would have been buttoned up. It would have been done. parent
Yeah.
manuals would be done, staff manuals would be done. You know, we had a lot of
Yeah.
trainings already booked out. And this would kind of, you know, break it all apart. We'd have to put it back together, and we just don't know what that would look like. So even if, you know, I know some people are saying, okay, if you have your guidelines in 2 weeks, you got plenty of time. In my experience, that's not plenty of time to put a camp together, you know, with a new normal. So it's just a lot of barriers, unfortunately.
All right.
For what it's worth, you know, I guess when I tried to inject a thought, I wasn't getting through because I was silenced, but which is probably a good thing. A lot of people wanted to do that. They wanted to do that for a long time. But I do think that what has been said before is very important. Safety has to be the #1 priority, and the reduction of any risk. And all of the things that involve the social distancing, the reduction in the number of campers, all of those things, the change in the types that are modifying the activities, all of those come into play. And I think that there's no other decision at this point that could be made other than to cancel. And then the question also becomes, what happens if a child contracted the disease, brought it home, and somehow infected the parents or some other people? At what point does town's liability come into play?
Yeah, and that was always the biggest, you know, worst case thing that we always went by. Of, you know, a little kid brings it home to the parents who happen to live
Right.
with the grandparents. And, you know, then there's a tragedy on our hands, and we just want to
Exactly.
avoid that. So. Well, I thank you for the support. I was dreading this call all day. So, but you know, and I thank Alex for putting up with me on the weekends, and, you know, her constant work on this too, especially, you know, speaking with our, you know, boots on the ground with our camp staff to get their take on it. But, you know, we thank you for the support when it comes to this. So.
Okay.
And Doreen picked a really good time to retire. So,
They say timing is everything.
Thank you for all the effort you've clearly put into trying to navigate this craziness. So
what we did.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Tim. It's good work.
And Denise, shout out to Denise.
Denise,
So.
Yes.
it's good work. It's just tough to, they're going to be, but people will understand. I think people, for the most part, will understand. You know, Don will,
so.
but Don's going to be like sending emails under a different name. Like, I don't know why you can't open.
My wife's not gonna talk to me, but we're only stuck with each other.
Don just took back his re-election to the commission.
Back to form.
Yes. All right.
What else we
So
got?
that was what we had on the agenda.
So
unless
Dave,
anyone
you
else
weren't
has-
here. You weren't
Yeah.
here when we talked about CPC. Is there anything we talked about Calander being moved and the lighting projects? Is there anything else you wanted to add being on the board?
No.
Easy enough. We're done.
It was good. You guys did a great job as usual. I don't agree, but I get it. I'm not trying to be I don't see why we can't vote for the field. I'm sorry, but I get it. I'm not, it makes sense. I'm not gonna like try to argue, but I just thought I'd just say, I don't think I've ever said no to anything I've ever voted for in my life. And for some reason it just felt time, but I get it. I'm not like trying to be and I thought you did a really good job of balancing it out. And I thought, so it's all good. I'm good.
Tim, I had a question for you. Are you supposed to be coming before the personnel board this week?
Yeah, for Alex's 6-month raise approval, which was 3 months ago. So as you saw, there's a big list of people on that.
Yeah.
So that'll be. I'll tune in. I don't think I have to present anything, but
No.
I'll be in the crowd.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question that I
Yeah,
don't think
of
I
course.
asked? I haven't read through, I've read a few articles on today's announcement. I haven't read through, but I'm sorry, I know we touched on this just a few minutes ago. But Jason Kurtz and his questions about opening the fields again, is that all phase 2? And has there been
Yeah.
discussion on what that would look like for us?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So parks are on the 25th, actually, so a week from today. I spoke beaches, parks, drive-in theaters, athletic fields, courts, May 25th, open with guidelines. So I reached out to Mark about it briefly to see if we were, using this as scripture and we were going by these dates, or if we were going to be making our own call. It sounds like the selectmen will take our recommendation as a commission and as a rec department. I think ultimately they will make the call. I think we need to be mindful of, the track has been open, but the track has been a nightmare.
Why has, what's been bad about the track?
Alex, you can elaborate if you want, but it's been just packed. It's absolutely packed. People using the fields, people using the sand pit as a sandbox, everything like that. I think it's necessary personally. I think it's time to give people a chance, open it up and see, it's parks, it's not playgrounds. So there's going to be a little, I think, issue there. If I think it's with many of our sites in town, you really can't open one without opening the other. But the 25th is the guideline. Personally, I think we give it a shot. And I think we just need to monitor it. And, I'll obviously talk to Board of Health, and I'll talk to, both chiefs, because they're going to have a say on it, definitely, and feelings on it. But I think it's going to be one of those things we just see what happens. And we hope that people, abide by the, physical distancing and everything like that using it. Because Lord knows people need it. We get it. Sun's out. So.
Yeah, I think it's time. When it's time, I think it's time. Like if it's the 25th, and then we could give the people something. We take away camps, give them a shitty grass field that's soaking wet. Sorry, I'm just kidding. But just give them a field. The fields are gonna be great.
Actually, that's kind of an interesting point, though, Dave, because I was walking by Liberty Estates today, in their fields, and it understandably wasn't mowed.
Yeah.
But can we talk to Karen if we're turning in that direction, that we're going to be able to open the fields, about going around and making sure they're
mowing them,
mowed and all brought back up to speed?
Yeah, everyone I've seen has been mowed. I think the ones that are very visible though are the contracted ones.
Yeah, Finn gets mowed. You're right. They do. I've seen them get mowed. Now that I think about it, I don't know about
this. Just happened to be Liberty, and obviously Liberty kind of stands out a bit from the other properties. Maybe I saw it Clander too. I can't remember because I walked by that recently too. But just as a side note, that'd be nice to have them fresh and
it would be
ready to go. And I think the tape you have at like that you put up at Fayetteville is like really effective for being like, I think it's at Fayetteville that I saw yellow tape or something kind of taping off the playground area.
Yeah.
So like if you think about, I can see I could see Finn being challenging because the field's about the playground right there. And I don't know if those have the yellow tape around the equipment, but that would be.
They did at one point. Yeah.
Oh. People just took it off. Nice.
We'll leave it at that, just like the chains on the tennis courts. So
it's crazy.
I've never seen so many skateboard. I live over by Finn. I've never seen so many people using the skateboard.
No, I know.
In my life.
Dave and I live near each other, so you can give us both tape, and we'll just go out there every day.
Yeah, if I'm allowed to, I'll yell. I love yelling at kids. I'll do it.
We'll give you a rec shirt.
Yeah, give me a shirt.
If you
just give me a whistle.
If we fast forward sort of 3 weeks, right, and we're on the verge of opening the fields as per phase 2, do you open them up for permitting?
Well, I think, you could say that that's a really good point.
So I actually think I read in the guidelines that was not allowed. Like permitted groups or like renting out a facility was not allowed.
Well, I don't remember seeing you saw that in the actual.
On Governor Baker, in the guidelines, I was reading that, like, but not permitted for group use.
Okay.
But
You said there's going to be tremendous demand for it. So if we don't have camps going and because there'll be huge demand for it. So even if it's just to rent it out, we'd have some opportunity there.
Yeah. But I mean, I also think, you know, it dependent again on when we get to phase 3, when youth sports comes into play, you know, there'll be a revenue stream there. You know, it won't be into the revolving account, but it'll at least be replenishing the facilities revolver.
No, absolutely. I think it happens before phase 3, because I think isn't phase 3 the actual
games? Yeah. The limited youth sports is 2. So like you said, it's probably practices of some nature.
If they're allowing limited use sports, I don't understand the concept of not permitting use. Like I think you'd have to have permitted use.
You'd have to, yeah.
interesting, yeah.
So you could be looking at, I mean, not an issue for today, but there's definitely something there where, you know, you're gonna have the softball guys come asking if they can, you know, start practicing, and you know the baseball people are just gonna jump in the field anyway. But that's, you know, while we're not gonna be, while our organized, responsible activities aren't gonna be going on, the fields will be available for others who are willing to go further.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I already have, you know, like Massachusetts and lacrosse, they're scheduled out in July to be safe. July and August, they're reserving dates just to be proactive. I'm sure, I know baseball probably has their, you know, what they wanted to do on paper, then I'm sure we could put in.
Soccer, one of the things that club soccer was kicking around was just, they haven't given us our money back, right, for the spring. So they kept all their money. And so they're kicking around either that they're going to start like and do like a mini season in the summer, or they're going to try to jam more into the fall. So you could see the fall season actually start sooner.
Sure.
Yep.
And have demand where you didn't have demand for fields before.
Yep.
True. Which tells me we're going to have to be even more stringent on the people who do blanket reservations. So we're going to have to really key in on that.
I hate COVID-19. Sorry.
Kristen, you're muted.
The power to mute must be
It's like
really
every
powerful
meeting
thing.
all day long. Sorry, I was on mute. So should we be proactive and take a vote, a position tonight? So leading up to the 25th, we can be crossing off all the check boxes of the people we need to circle back with. And you're not forced waiting for another meeting from us. Like, does everyone feel like they know enough to take a position, or have you not read? Like I said, I've read enough of the phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I feel comfortable taking a position, and I know how I feel about the fields being open. So I just want to make sure we put you in the best position possible to check off whatever remaining boxes we need to be able to meet the date of the 25th.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what that motion would be. But if I had the support to make the decision with consulting with the other groups involved, something of that nature, that could be helpful to expedite.
So I motion the commission publicly supports the opening of fields on the 25th and empower the Recreation Department Director to make that decision upon final consultation with the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Laval, yes.
Nixon, yes.
Candela, yes.
Hanson, yeah. I heard you the first time. All right, so then do we have anything else other than scheduling our next meeting?
I don't.
All right.
Jen, do we want, just getting those emails from Tom, do we want to touch base with them first, see what's available?
Oh yeah, I don't, here, I can pull it up right now. If we want to look at, like, do we want to look for, we're looking early June?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. I also like, I don't think anyone books them out as far as we do, but I can double check. So when in June do we want to meet next?
When will, trying to think of the governor's timeframes.
Third week?
Yeah, it would be, it's 3 weeks from the 25th, I think, right? It's not 3 weeks from today.
Well, I just wonder if we should meet a little, I mean, I know we usually go 4 weeks, but given everything that could, come down in the next 2 to 3 weeks and then impact on the department, I would say we should meet the week of the 1st or the 8th at the latest. If it's short, because not a lot has changed.
Town meeting is the 13th of June. I don't think there's anything that's going to come up. So if we at least meet that week, just in case something we think pops up budgetarily or catch wind that they're going to take. By then, we should know exactly what articles are going to be there. So it could be the lighting bylaw if it sneaks in, stuff like that. So maybe that week we shoot for to be safe.
So yeah,
That'd
Monday,
be
June 8th.
interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Sound good. So make a motion to adjourn at 8:39.
Second.
Cool. All
Do we
right.
have to, do we have to vote with our names? We'll vote in
Sure.
favor.
Roll call. Yep.
Candela, yes. Candela, yes.
Good job.
How do you vote?
Candela, you gotta get your form in so you can vote next time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. All
I
right.
love
All right, then we're good.
All
it.
right.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Guys,
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Good
you.
week.
Guys. Bye.
Bye.
Stay well.
The fall.
See ya.